Hey folks, welcome. I'm excited to talk to you today because we are getting ready to start Q2. And today's message is for you if you experience less than stellar results in Q1. So you made some money, you achieved some of your goals, but not the big ones, not the stuff that you really had your mind set on, right? So we're going to talk about today, number one, why that happened and what you need to do so that you can set yourself up for success in Q2 and beyond for this year, all right? We're going to spend about 20 minutes here together today. I'm going to share with you the 3 common reasons why people fail, why they set goals and they don't achieve them. Again, I'm going to share with you how you can actually achieve what you want to achieve for yourself. And that's pretty much it. We're going to spend some time doing that today. I'm also going to take some questions from you at the end. What I would also encourage you to do, if you know someone who would benefit from today's training, invite them to attend, all right? Now, my name is Desiree Stafford. If you've never been on one of my trainings before, welcome. And what I essentially do is I help you and anyone else that might be struggling in their business to make the kind of money and impact that they know that they're capable of. That's what I help you do. So check me out at DesireeStafford.com if you're interested in learning more about that. Cool? All right. So the very first reason most people do not achieve their goals is simply a lack of focus, right? So whether or not it's a matter of writing things down, like maybe it's you haven't set the time to really decide what you want, to get super clear about what you want and call that in, could be that, right? It could be that, when things happen throughout the quarter that maybe didn't go as planned, perhaps you lost your focus, right? You started focusing on what wasn't going well instead of focusing on the solution, trying to, figure out how to solve the problem. And kind of got into like this rabbit hole of that kind of stuff. That happens to a lot of people. Perhaps you didn't have an accountability system, right? So, I'm actually going to be sharing a similar training like this. Obviously, it's going to be more in depth with my mastermind clients next week. But part of the reason I do that with my masterminders is because they have accountability built into our program. So do you have accountability for yourself when you set goals? Is there someone or is there a group or community for you that can support you, that can hold you accountable to achieving your goals, right? So these are some of the things that you want to consider, because if you don't have that level of support, it can be challenging to stay focused on what it is that you want, to continue to take the actions to get what it is that you desire, right? So I want you to consider what daily practices you need to put in place. Okay, what daily practices do you need to put in place to make sure that you are focused on your goal, focused on the outcome that you desire every single day, right? So a couple things that I do. One thing that I do is I start my day and I say, what would make me happy? Because, oftentimes we focus so much on the goals, and as we're growing, as we're stretching, we need to make sure that the goal is in alignment with who we are. Right? Because if it's not in alignment, then what's going to be the incentive to stay with that goal? You're going to lose your focus, right? So I always ask myself at the beginning of the day, what's going to make me happy? Make sure I'm still in alignment with what it is that I say that I want. At the end of the day, when I'm done with all of my work, and actually this is the way that I know that I'm done with all of my work, because my days, some days are much shorter than others. And I work on average about 20 hours a week. So the way that I give myself permission to end the workday without driving myself crazy, without feeling like I have to work my tail to the bone, as I check in with myself and I say, am I proud? Am I proud of what I've accomplished today? Not about working hard, right? Because a lot of people think that as long as I'm busy, as long as I'm doing, and I'm working hard, I'm productive. Not really, right? You're just busy. There's a difference between being busy and being productive. So when I look at the end of my day and I ask myself, am I proud? If I've stretched myself, if I've challenged a prospect, if I've challenged my clients, what I'm saying? If I've done something that I was afraid to do, at the end of my day, I'm proud, right? And it doesn't matter if I've done one major task or I've done 3 or 4 or 5, right? As long as I know that I did things that are going to move me closer to my end goal, my end result, then I'm happy. Then I feel proud of myself. And that's when I end my day, right? Regardless of whether it took me an hour or 3 hours or 5 hours that day, okay? So that's what I want you to do. Work on your focus, right? Work on your focus. So number one, have an idea of what you want, set the intention of what you want, but also make sure that as things happen throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the quarter, you are able to regain your focus. Make sure you have some, either a system in place for yourself where you are monitoring your focus, right? Or having other people support you, right? Having a community, having a coach, having whatever it is that you need so that you stay focused, so that you actually achieve your goals. Second reason why most folks, don't achieve their goals is they simply lack faith, right? And lacking faith is a common thing. And I see it happen in so many people, especially people, I work with a lot of people who are very spiritual. I myself am spiritual. And what I find interesting is when people who are highly spiritual, highly in tune, very conscious, lack faith, right? That's how common this thing is. And it's so important that you have someone who can support you, because it's oftentimes you don't even see it, right? Because of old programming and all kinds of stuff, you can't even see where you're not conscious, where you're not standing in faith, right? And this is a massive part of your success, is being able to stand in faith. It's being able to, how do I say, trust the process, right? You've got to trust yourself. Hey, Jordan, you've got to trust yourself. You've got to trust in what it is that you're doing. You've got to trust in your vision, all of those things. If you don't, then it's very easy for you to get sidetracked, to lose focus, like we just talked about, right? It's very easy for you to doubt, right? If you're someone who has a tendency, like many of us have been programmed, to look to the external and assume that what you see in your reality is the absolute truth, right? If you have the tendency to do that, of course it's easy for you to lose faith, right? And that's something that you cannot afford to lose. You don't have the luxury of losing faith. So again, what I shared earlier, you want to make sure you have some kind of support system, or you've designed a process for yourself so that you can stay in faith, right? Because it's the area where we seem to be challenged the most, right? And I don't care what level you're at. I don't care if you are, just making a little bit of money. I don't care if you're already above 6 figures. I don't care if you're already at 7 or above. Doesn't matter. We all seem to get challenged in the faith department. So it's very important that you figure out a way for yourself that works for you to make sure that you can maintain your faith, right? I will tell you, what I do a lot is mindset work. I mean, it's something that I teach my clients, and I walk my talk because I know how important it is. I know that when I was not doing mindset work, it didn't matter what kind of work I did otherwise. It didn't matter, how many ads I created. It didn't matter how many posts I wrote. It didn't matter how many webinars I did. If I was doing all of that external stuff and I wasn't working on my internal faith, right? Or let me rephrase, I wasn't working on what I need to do internally so that I could have the absolute resolve, so that I could have the absolute confidence that the things I was doing was actually going to bring me results. It didn't matter. I would just work myself into exhaustion and not get the results that I desired. Faith is an absolute requirement for you to achieve your goals, right? And so I know that I've had former clients who I've shared this stuff with, and they wanted to continue to work on all that external stuff and bypass this stuff, right? Not work on their faith. And what happened? They'd get so-so results. They'd get results, but they were certainly not the results that I knew and they knew that they were capable of. And that creates nothing more than frustration, right? So it's very important that you do the internal work just as much, if not more than, the external things that you're doing. Thanks for the love, by the way. Hey, Janelle, how are you? I would have thought you'd be on a plane, Janelle. But how are you? I'm glad you're joining us. All right, so, okay. The third reason why people don't achieve their goals is a lack of follow-through. So what I'm talking about is a lack of consistent, persistent action towards what it is that you desire. Now, why does that happen? It usually happens if you don't have the faith and if you don't have the focus that we talked about earlier, right? So it's important that you follow through. It's important that whenever the inspiration comes and you get an intuitive hit, you just follow it. It doesn't have to feel linear. It doesn't have to make sense to you. Because what you're asking for, typically when you're setting goals, you want your goals to be much bigger than something that you've ever accomplished before, right? So it's going to mean that you have to take different action, right? It's going to mean that you got to do things that are different. So you're going to want to follow through on every intuitive hit that comes to you. Stop judging it. Stop questioning it. Stop thinking that you know best, because you don't, right? None of us do. There is a power that is way bigger than us that can get us to where we want to be much faster, right? So this doesn't mean that you don't create a plan. Absolutely, you create a plan, but you're not married to that plan. You're not attached to the outcome of the plan. You are married to the result, right? However that result comes, doesn't matter. but you must follow the intuitive hits that you get, every single one of them, whether it makes sense or not, right? Because a lot of you are getting stuck because you are, oh, that doesn't make sense. Oh, I already know that, or I already tried that. I mean, that was where I would get myself stuck all the time. I'd always say, oh, I already tried that, right? Yeah, but even if I had already tried that, I was trying it from a different place, right? From a different perspective. I was being someone different when I tried it and it didn't work, right? So we have to kind of allow for that, the room for the fact that we've grown, right? And if we've grown and we are being someone different in this moment, we can try the same thing we tried 6 months ago and get a different outcome, right? So don't assume that you know everything. Don't assume that because you tried it before and it didn't work before that it's not going to work this time. And certainly don't get yourself married or attached to a particular way of getting the result. Be attached to the result, right? But not the how, in terms of how it's going to manifest, how it's going to show itself. I remember years ago when I wanted to get into entertainment. I wanted to be like an entertainment reporter. And I thought about getting on television. And I actually went in an audition and I completely bombed. When we talk about deer in headlights, that's exactly what I was. It was awful. It was embarrassing. I was literally a deer in headlights. Like I froze when the camera was there. It was so crazy. And I was like, wow, I don't think I'm going to do that well on television. Obviously, I didn't get the gig. However, at that event, or at that audition, I met someone who was, she worked at the television station behind the scenes, but she was also on air in radio. And about a week prior to this event, by the way, I remember saying to myself, oh, I'd probably consider radio, but I had no contacts in radio. It was just kind of like on a whim. And I said that to myself. And so at this audition where I bombed, here I met this woman who worked behind the scenes in television and also on the air and radio. Had a conversation with her, and within about a week, I was on the radio. And she could introduce me to a couple of different people within the network, and I had my own entertainment segment. With no experience whatsoever, within a short period of time, without having any contacts, about 2 weeks prior. So that's how quickly things can happen, because I wasn't married to how, right? If I was married to the how, and I went to the audition, and I bombed at the audition, and I thought, oh my God, I'll never get, into entertainment now because, I'm terrible on television, then what would have happened, right? I would not have followed through with, with the conversations I had and the information that she asked me to send to her, which would not have allowed me to get on the radio, right? I ended up getting on the radio. I ended up having a segment of my own on a very popular radio show in the #5 network in the country with zero experience and zero contacts just a few weeks prior, right? So this is the power of being attached to the outcome, but not how the outcome is materialized or is realized, right? So you do want to have a plan. You do want to follow through on all the intuitive hits that you get, and then, continue to take action in the direction of what you desire, right? Don't allow yourself to get your panties in a bunch if things don't turn out the way that you want them to turn out. All right, so let me do a quick little recap on the 3 reasons why people typically fail at achieving their results or their goals, right? The first reason is a lack of focus, right? Not having a plan in place at all, or if you have a plan in place and things don't turn out the way that you want, you tend to lose focus. You tend to focus on the problem and not the solution. So I talked about the fact that you want to make sure that you have some measures in place for you to stay focused, right? Whether that is having a coach, whether that's having a community, whether it's a system that you put into place to keep yourself accountable on a day-to-day basis, right? That's something that you want to make sure that you have for yourself. The second reason people fail is because they lack faith, right? So what is it that you need to be working on a consistent basis to make sure that you have the faith that you need in order to realize your big vision, right? Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in your process? Do you believe in your vision, right? If you do not, if you have, some wobbly areas, right, going on around that, if you're having a crisis of confidence for whatever reason, because maybe a client didn't get results or maybe something happened with you in the past, whatever the case may be, right, you need to work on that. You need to do that internal work, because if you're not sold, you cannot sell anyone else, right? So it's important that you're doing that work to strengthen your faith so that you have the resolve so that you can actually achieve your goals, right? And the last piece of this is that you want to make sure that you follow through, right? When the big ideas come, when the intuitive hits come, follow through on everything. Stop judging it. Stop, assuming that you know all the answers. Assume that you know everything that's best, because who you are today could be a different person than you were a couple of months ago when you tried to do something before, right? So don't assume that you already know, number one. Number two, listen, there's a source outside of you that's much bigger than you that has the answers that you don't necessarily have. So yes, you're going to make a plan, but there might be other ways for you to realize that vision that don't go according to your plan, but that doesn't mean that you don't need to take the actions that come through the plan, right? It doesn't mean that you get to sit home and twiddle your thumbs and expect that, everything that you want is going to drop out of the sky into your lap. It's not going to happen that way, right? But you do have to realize that you want to have some plan, you want to follow through on the ideas and the inspiration that come, and then you want to allow for another possibility to enter to allow you to realize your goals. I hope that all makes sense. Thanks for love, by the way. All right, so if you would like some support with making the kind of money and impact that you know that you're capable of, go to DesireeStafford.com/session and let's talk, right? I would love nothing more than to help you figure out, what's getting in the way of you actually achieving your goals, right? Because we're looking at not just business goals, but we're also looking at your personal goals. What is it that you want to accomplish this year? What's been getting in your way, and what do we need to do to get you there, right? In the easiest and fastest way possible. So check me out at DesireeStafford.com/session if you would like that kind of support. Now, I do want to open up for questions. Does anyone have any questions about what I've shared so far today? While you're doing that, let me take a sip of my tea. Any questions about what I've shared so far today? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jordan. All right, so if there are no questions, I'm going to leave it here. However, if you go back and you watch this replay and questions do pop up for you, please put them in the comment box and I will reply. Cool? All right, so I hope you guys have gotten a lot of value out of today's video. If you have, I invite you to like, comment, and share it. And until we do speak, I hope you're up to big, bold things in your life and in your business. Take care.